Welcome to Education Matters, presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm your host, Amos Spodchuk. Today we're joined by North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mo Green, to learn about his strategic plan to make North Carolina's local public schools the best in the nation by 2030. Superintendent Green, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're just going to jump right in because there's so much in this plan to unpack. What would you like people to know about the strategic plan?
So I'll start with maybe four different categories of things that I'd love for folks to know about the strategic plan. First would be process for us. Second would be the substance of the plan. Third would be the status of the plan. And the fourth would be how do people get involved? And so, what is the process that we went through to develop the plan itself? We did a lot of listening. In fact, we did a listening and learning tour that took us all across the state of North Carolina. We had community sessions in 8 regions of the state. We also had a lot of virtual sessions and small group sessions. We visited schools and community activities. We talked with thousands upon thousands of individuals. We asked them 4 questions, essentially. What is it that you would want to celebrate and continue about our public schools? What are the challenges and potential solutions for our public schools? What are your big ideas? And then how would you commit to being supportive of our public schools? Got a lot of feedback that then allowed us to put together a draft plan that was presented to the State Board of Education. They provided feedback. We took it back out to lots of folks to allow for further feedback. And then ultimately, about 2 months ago, had a plan that was adopted unanimously by the State Board of Education. What's in the plan? You made reference to it. It's entitled Achieving Educational Excellence. It has 3 major components. Those would be high academic achievement, character development, and this audacious goal of being the best public school system in the nation by 2030. There are 8 pillars that make up the plan that will get us to the best in nation. And there are metrics related to what best in nation means, things like graduation rates, things like participation and performance on advanced placement exams and career and technical education, among other things as well. Those 8 pillars cover a number of different things. We'll, I'm sure, get into that in more detail. But suffice it to say that there are also then actions and measures under each of those plans, a total of 110 actions throughout the plan itself. With regards to status, the plan is launched. In fact, we've already been able to put a check mark next to a number of those 110 actions already. We are certainly developing implementation teams for any of the other actions that are going to launch in the near term. We actually put launch dates in the plan so folks will know about when each one will launch. And then finally, how can you get involved? There are lots of ways for folks to get involved, as an advocate, to a thought partner, to a service provider, to an investor and funder. And so there's a place on our website, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, where folks can say, this is how I'd like to be involved in this particular action or in the plan more generally. And then as we have implementation teams develop for each of the actions, there'll be further opportunities for folks to raise their hand and say, I'd really like to be involved in a particular action as well.
Superintendent Green, what I love about your description of not only the plan itself as a framework, but the way that it was accumulated through voice and through dialogue is impressive to me. I'm familiar with a lot of states' strategic plans, and many of them are communicated in educator and administrator speak. And what I'm hearing from you, not only in the way that that plan was created, but even in the way that you're describing it to me, is that you're making this plan accessible to people. you're making the plan real for more than just educators. And by identifying an opportunity to engage in dialogue, discovery, and action with diverse stakeholder groups, there's an incredible potential to make promising gains in alignment with some of these outcomes outlined in your plan. Could you give us that one additional layer of detail of what those pillars and goals of the plan look like? It's not important to go through all of them, but it would be nice to see from those multiple perspectives how you aim to operationalize these 100 plus outcomes associated with that plan.
Absolutely. Happy to do so. And I'll start maybe with the best in nation metrics, right? So, again, just to remind everybody that one of the goals is for us to have the best educational system in the entire country. And so, when folks would ask us, well, what does best mean? We said, well, we need to develop some goals, some metrics. And so, things like graduation rate, right? 4-year cohort graduation rate, where we compare North Carolina to the rest of the nation and where we sit there, to things like advanced placement exams, both participation and performance, to things like career and technical education, participation and performance, to things like dual enrollment. How many of our students are dually enrolled in high school and college courses at the same time, to things that focus on maybe not a national measure that we could find, but one that we think was critically important around what is our enrollment of students in our public schools look like right now. And so that is another measure. We'll look at National Assessment of Educational Progress for fourth and eighth grade reading and math as well. So those are some of the metrics and sort of where we sit right now. And then, as you asked about, the various goals, if you will, or pillars, if you will. So there are 8. And without going into all of them in great detail, I'll just say they cover everything from preparing our students for whatever's next in their life after they graduate from high school, to certainly revering our public school educators, to enhancing our engagements with parents and community members, to certainly trying to provide safe and secure learning environments for our students, to certainly things related to transformative change. And then we have 2 goals that may be somewhat unique across the country, in that we're really focusing in on celebrating the excellence in public education and trying to galvanize individuals to become public school champions by investing and supporting in our public schools. I'll give you maybe an example of an action or two just to give you some sense, and I'll lift up maybe some that have already launched as an example. So in that first pillar, we have something called North Carolina College Connect. This is an opportunity for students who are seniors in high school that have a 2.8 grade point average or higher. As long as they finish their journey through the rest of this year, they have already received communication that they have been directly admitted into up to 34 colleges and universities across the state of North Carolina, both public and private, right? Which is really transforming the way a lot of students in our state are thinking about their ability to go to college, right? To implementing a new student information system this year, which is providing much more information to parents about what's going on in their children's school. And then certainly, we also worked with the General Assembly and the governor this year to really focus on limiting the use of wireless devices by our students during the instructional day, and that's implementing starting this school year as well. So those are just a few of the examples of things that are in the actions there. As you mentioned, things focused on compensation for educators, where we need to advocate for increased compensation for our educators, to lots of strategies that we'll have around how we engage and galvanize public school champions as well.
After the break, we'll continue this conversation with Superintendent Green's plan to make North Carolina's local public schools the best in the nation by 2030. Let's continue our discussion with Superintendent Mo Green about the plan to make North Carolina's local public schools the best in the nation by 2030. I want to dial in. I want to hone in on two words that you shared. One is revere, as it relates to the manner in which we see and treat educators. I'm a former high school English teacher and a national board certified teacher as a function of the example that North Carolina has set across not just this state, but where I was an educator in Virginia some years ago. The resonance of North Carolina as a leader in education is not so far in our rearview mirror. I think we'd agree that your plan to move forward to becoming the best experience or learning experience in the country means that we're not there now. How are we going to go about honoring that word revere? Because it's a powerful one. How are we
Yeah.
going to create an opportunity for teachers to feel needed, uplifted, supported, and force multiplied through their communities?
Great. Thank you so much for that question. And this particular pillar, which is pillar two, revering our public school educators. There are multiple strategies and actions underneath that pillar. I want to lift up just a couple or so, just to give you some sense of how we turn those words into actual action and reality. Um, so certainly, as I've already indicated, we'll focus on compensation and advocating for increased compensation for our educators. Going to work closely with the General Assembly to have them focus on that particular issue going forward, because oftentimes have found that the General Assembly has focused on lots of different issues related to public education. Some have been really powerful and positive, but we really want them at this moment to appreciate that if we're going to really transform our educational system, we've got to have the ability to recruit and retain superior educators. We're also going to focus on time. So one of the things that even educators shared with me during this listening and learning effort was, Mo, if we can't get more money, give us more time, right? And so trying to take away some of those duties that are really taking a substantial amount of educators' time so they can focus on educating our students, being involved in professional development activities, et cetera. This is also about changing the way we even talk about our educators, right? And so the word revere is intentionally chosen. Um, Respect is a word lots of folks use, and I like the word respect, but I don't think it elevates um, the thought around how we should actually be thinking about our educators. Educators are part of a noble profession. This is indeed a noble profession. It is the profession that transforms individual lives, families, community, the state, the nation, and beyond. And so, really want us to get to a place where we maybe used to be in the way we thought about our educators, back to that place of true reverence of what they do. And so there will
Thank you.
be strategies around that. And certainly, me using that term, others are starting to use that term. Um, but there will be much more developed strategies to have this become ingrained in the way we talk about and appreciate educators in North Carolina. And then the last thing I just want to say here, um, and very much appreciate your service as a teacher and as a national board certified teacher. North Carolina actually has the most nationally board certified teachers in the country. These are the folks who go above and beyond to learn about and become experts in their field. But when I talk about educators, I don't want folks to simply think teachers. We absolutely want to think teachers, but when I use that term, I'm talking about really everyone who has a part to play in the education of our students, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, custodians. The list is long, but it's more expansive than maybe how some people might think of educators.
That's superb. Superintendent Green, I really appreciate that thoughtful response. It segs nicely into the next question I have, where schools are hubs in community, and they're among the few remaining hubs that we have that are easily accessible to so many. And I wonder how, in relation to the strategic plan, how can community members and business leaders specifically engage not just with DPI, with you, but also with their local schools and school systems.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there will be lots of different ways for community members, business leaders, et cetera, to get involved. And yeah, again, advocacy is going to be important. Certainly, thought partners, certainly service providers, certainly investors and funders. So there'll be lots of ways, but I want to give maybe an example or two so that folks can translate that into something much more specific. So one of the actions in the plan is around developing career development plans for eighth graders as they go into ninth grade. It's in legislation that this has to happen, but we don't want this to just be a check the box scenario, right? Where eighth graders, and I like to think that many eighth graders really may not have a true appreciation of what careers they might even be interested in, right? And so the way to really turn that from a check the box situation to something that really is meaningful to them as they go into the ninth grade and beyond is to connect with the business community. And in that regard, actually have businesses connect with local schools and provide a wealth of resources to our schools so they can share, at least in this community, these are the things, these are the opportunities that students will have the opportunities to potentially engage with. Provide internship opportunities to students, even as they now move into high school. Right. So we move from just exposure to actual opportunities for students, to apprenticeships, deeper opportunities for students to be involved in potential careers as well. And so that's just an example of how businesses can get involved, community members more broadly. Think about another strategy that's in the plan is around community schools and really growing more of these models across the state. And community schools are this wonderful interactions between community and schools, where community agencies and individuals really are invited into and to become part of the schooling opportunities. And so, we look forward to really using that model across the state to get community members involved in any number of different ways, depending on what their area of expertise and or interest might be.
That's superb. I think what my interpretation of your answer to that question is that it really boils down to culture, whether that's within a community and a school or an expanded region with its school system. At the end of the day, this really boils down to a sense of owned and co-owned purpose. And I think that many aspects of the plan, the pillars and the goals that I've been able to review in your plan, create the conditions for a cultural expansion and deepening at the school level, the district level, and even between schools and districts. I also appreciate the tangible examples of how business and community leaders can contribute and can uplift the role that a school plays in a community. The second to last question really pertains to, can you provide another example that folks who are watching us and listening to our conversation might not realize is a student outcome that is tangible and exciting to you as a function of this strategic plan How are kids going to know that this plan made a difference for them?
One of the things that's in action in the plan, and I should say, just as a clarification, when folks say, my plan, certainly I have a part to play in it, or folks will say the State Board of Education's plan, and certainly they have a part to play in it. They did approve it unanimously, but it's really North Carolina's plan. All right? And
Good.
so I just want to be clear about that for our public schools and a tangible thing. So I'd like to have folks sort of envision along with me what we put in the plan for under Pillar One. We want every student to graduate from high school having taken and passed a college level course and not or and a career and technical education course and show that they have great character. And we haven't developed what that will look like, but in my prior work as superintendent of Guilford County, we utilize service learning as a way of students showing their great character. And so that may be a way that we go forward. But this is what we want to envision. That's what students should feel when they walk across that graduation stage, is that they really are prepared for whatever may be next for them, which may be a bit different than the way we've thought about how we educate students up to in the past, where we say you can do either or. You're great with your hands, so we want to be sure you get involved in career and technical education, or you're showing great academic progress, and so we want to get you involved in higher academic subjects. Many of our students, in fact, I think the vast majority of them can do it all. And so we've got to think about that differently and then set the systems up to allow that to, in fact, occur.
North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mo Green. Thank you so much for your time today. I can't think of a better way to end what is not the completion of a conversation, but really just the beginning of one, not just between you and me, but also between citizens across our state. So I really appreciate the time that you've shared with us today. We appreciate your leadership and service, and we wish you and your entire team, alongside North Carolina educators of every identity, well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
After the break, this week's final word. Right now, North Carolina ranks 49th in the nation in public education funding effort. The 30-year Leandro case remains ongoing, despite rulings that we're not meeting our constitutional duty to provide every child with a sound, basic education. At the same time, calls to defund the U.S. Department of Education and delayed funding disbursements have made federal dollars feel unreliable, making our state's responsibility to students even greater. This may not sound great, but it's not a reason to lose hope. It's an invitation to lead. Despite these challenges, North Carolina's local public schools continue to serve the vast majority of our children with heart, creativity, and resilience. Many of them are doing amazing things with a small amount of resources. Imagine what they could do with a lot. Superintendent Green's strategic plan lays out an ambitious path forward, including raising graduation rates, ACT scores, and participation in advanced coursework while leading the Southeast in educator pay. Reaching these goals will take more than a plan on paper. It will take respect for educators, community support, and investment. Our investments demonstrate what we care about, and I don't think it's a stretch to say most of us care about our future. That's what public school students are, the future of our state. We cannot expect or even hope to continue to thrive as a state if we're unwilling to give our next generations of professionals, lawmakers, and community leaders the tools they need. North Carolina's local public schools could be the best in the nation. The question is not whether it's possible, it's whether we will choose to make it so. Thank you for taking time with us to learn and think about education. That's all for today, and we'll see you next week.